Hello, and welcome back to The Weekly. We're here with episode 3, and back by popular demand, we have our CTO, Scott Sawyer.
Popular demand. Cheers. Happy Weekly.
The cloud content was too good. We got to continue it.
Yep, we got a lot of feedback from our listeners that the cloud content was really great, and this idea of how manufacturing and cloud are related is really important to us. I know it's something that we talk about constantly in here because, again, it's so important for our shops. So we thought, who better to talk to than our CTO that is an expert in the field?
Yeah, cloud keeps coming up. We keep hearing it from everybody. It's happening. It's a wave. Manufacturing is going cloud-based. It's taking time. It's taking more time than a lot of other industries, but you have to imagine pretty much every piece of software you use to run a manufacturing operation is moving toward the cloud, and with good reason.
I would say that probably, how many tools are cloud-based that we use in the office?
I was just thinking about this. In a given day, I must use 30 different cloud-based tools to do what I have to do.
To continue your daily tasks.
Yeah.
And then we walk into these shops and they're using maybe one or two. The more advanced shops are definitely on a higher level, but the entry-level shops, they check their bank account is maybe on the cloud, maybe some other things are hosted, but for the most part, on-premise everywhere we see.
And so the thing that's interesting to me is it resistance to change or is it fear, and are they somehow related, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there's definitely that barrier to adoption. I think it's mostly about change. It's not so much fear. I think people are getting over whether, asking the question like, can cloud be secure and is my data safe? And I think people have realized that it's safer and more secure than it would be on premise. Mm-hmm. So I think people have overcome that resistance to the cloud for those reasons. So mostly it's change, right? If you have a system that's working, the software has to do a lot more than the current system for there to be a reason to change the way you run your business.
To justify the investment in a new system.
Like you often hear it's got to be 10x better. Mm-hmm. Like the only reason I'm going to make a change is if it's 10x better. If it's just slightly better, not going to retrain my whole staff on how to do a thing. But that's the biggest thing with cloud. That's why the software is getting so much better. When you think about how software worked 10, 20 years ago, it is remarkably better now. It does so much more stuff. It's faster. It works better. And you can complain about it and say like, oh, the app on my phone didn't do the right thing this morning. But, think about that. Think about what you're doing and how much kind of faster and more mobile it is. So it's kind of ridiculous how much software has gotten better. And that's because of agility. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were talking about it before, right? With cloud-based software, the rate at which you can update it is so much better than on-premise. So typically, it's not even necessarily on-premise, but just desktop software. Think about Microsoft Word, right? Mm-hmm. For many years, that was updated at most once a year. And now that as those sorts of applications are going web-based, you're seeing them really take off and do some cool things. Like we use Google Docs to collaborate, and other companies have similar products, but that does significantly more than a desktop word processing application does. The fact that all three of us can look at the same document and see each other typing on other parts of the world in real time, that's insanely more powerful than a desktop word processing program. And you can argue about, I don't know how to set the page margin the exact same way I used to, whatever. That's such a detail. So that's the key of it. It's the agility and the fact that it's getting updated constantly.
When you say agility, do you mean in regards to the product development cycle? Like where does agility really fit in?
Yeah, it's the whole way software is made now. Mm-hmm. It used to be you would think about what you wanted to build. You'd spend a whole lot of time building it, many months building it. You would test it, a ton. Then you would print it onto CD-ROMs and stick it in a box and put it on the shelf at Staples, right? That's obviously not how we deliver software anymore. So now the product cycles, each release could be daily, could be weekly. So Paperless parts, we ship an update typically weekly. Mm-hmm. That's common, for a SaaS company. So, what that enables us to do is we ship a feature, and because it's web-based, we can get some quick feedback on how it's working, right? Mm-hmm. We can get some info about, whether it's being used at all, whether there's errors happening, so we can usually detect bugs before our users even notice it because, my phone will buzz if some new error happens on our application, so we're just totally way more wired in, right? And then we have an opportunity to roll it out to a few shops first, and we'll talk to those shops.
People that are going to use it right away kind of thing.
Yeah, it's people who ask for the features usually. Mm-hmm. So if you ask for some new feature and we end up building it, you're gonna be the beta tester, and you'll know it. It's not like like we're very upfront about it. And you'll be on the phone with Roger, our product manager, and we'll get the feedback on it, and the time between that feedback coming to us and it being back in the product could be a week, mm-hmm. right, as opposed to a year or two. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy how much quicker you can iterate on software when it's cloud-based.
And the feedback we get from shops all the time is that, wow, it's so nice to actually have our feedback be listened to, considered, and then amazingly implemented, right? It's not just lost in some hopper. And I think you and I have spoken to this 6 times on this show already.
Probably.
But it comes up every week, and I find it hard not to bring it up every time.
And some of it also what we're building. Mm-hmm. We're really excited about what we're building. We think this product and this company can be valuable. That was the case for example, ERP systems many, many years ago, where that was exciting new technology. And now it's not. Now it's a simple user interface on top of a database. That's all super commodity now. So there's not been continued investment in those products, right? What we have going here in a given week, we're putting 1,000 hours into this product across software engineering, product, design, customer success to capture that feedback. 1,000 hours of work went into this product every week, right? That's crazy. ERP systems are not investing that kind of effort into their product anymore.
Not the slightest.
Because it's just commoditized. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's getting better so fast.
Mm-hmm. One of the other elements that's interesting is cloud's ability to communicate with your existing systems, whether they be cloud-based, whether they be on-premise. Again, I think perhaps you can speak to this as well.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. As people move to the cloud, there's a lot of questions that they do ask and more that they should be asking. And one of the key things, when you think about modern cloud software, there's a lot of things that should be true about it, right? Mm-hmm. It should be updated. It should be responsive, meaning you should be able to use it on any device you want to use it on. It's got to be secure. It's got to be reliable. All that stuff should be a given. But it also has to interoperate with other tools. Like we talked before, the old way of doing it would be a very small number of systems that do a ton of different things. Yeah. And what happens, what the world has sort of moved to is a larger number of products that specialize and do a smaller number of things really well. Mm-hmm. So paperless parts, we make it really easy to quote complicated parts way quicker than your old way of doing it. Mm-hmm. But that means that there's multiple different, software applications that you're going to be moving to operate your business, and those things have to talk to each other. So when you look at cloud-based software solutions, you need to demand that they have things like open APIs and a long list of tools they integrate with, right? If it's not cloud-based software, really, if you're just taking desktop software and
hosting it somewhere.
Hosting it on a cloud-based, that's sort of the worst of both worlds, right? Yeah. You don't have the interoperability, and if it's on-premise, you are interoperable because you can usually just access the database or something. Yeah. Now you've taken away that benefit of on-premise, and you've given very little of the benefit of cloud, which should be the ability to connect it in with other cloud systems. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask those questions. We see in the manufacturing industry a lot of tools moving to the cloud, but not making good on all those things that people probably assume are going to be true about cloud software. Mm-hmm. Specifically, to move someone from an on-premise version of software to a cloud-based version of that software, remove your ability to interface with a SQL server, and then to not have an API, you have just made your software worse in every way.
There's nothing.
There are direct examples.
I mean,
you can't connect anything. You can't talk to anything. Yeah. There's nothing. It's like it's still chunked out and blocked. It's a marketing ploy.
It's not really cloud-based software. Yeah, there's some companies that are really the boss of that, and there's other ones, and there's other ones too.
Alrighty, let's tackle ITAR very quickly because again, I think even though people might not be fearful of it, perhaps there are some shops out there, shop owners, people who are considering the security risk associated with cloud, and for whatever reason they believe that it might not be secure. Maybe they're an ITAR shop, right? And they're really concerned about practicing ITAR compliance.
Well, you have to ask the question. You can't assume that cloud-based software is suitable for ITAR. Like you should not be uploading, you should not be just going to your Google Drive and uploading ITAR data. You shouldn't even really be emailing it. That said, you can have ITAR solutions in the cloud, right? Like paperless parts, but there's a lot of things that have to be true. So, for the most part, well, there's 3 things a cloud company has to be doing to be ITAR compliant. It's where it's hosted.
Yep.
So, and there's more than one. It used to just be Amazon GovCloud. There was one data center that was really sort of okay for ITAR. And now there's multiple Amazon data centers. Microsoft Azure has an offering now. So it's starting to become more common.
Nice.
The other piece is that company providing the software and the software itself has to follow certain cybersecurity standards. So NIST has a bunch of standards, and that company has to embrace that. It has to be the way they operate. And then the third thing is that the data, so if it's in the data center, that means the data lives there. But you also have to make sure that people at that company, anyone on the support team, system administrators at that company, those have to be U.S. persons, right? They have to be located in the U.S. and they have to be, either citizens or some other category that makes it okay for them to have access to export control data. So if all those things aren't true, you can't be putting ITAR on that cloud-based service. So those are the questions you have to ask.
Yeah.
We'll see marketing material, from companies coming from different countries talking about how they're an ITAR solution in the cloud. And like, it's possible, it could be true. They could have, a crazy operation structure where only people in the US have access to this data and the servers are there, but maybe there's some developers overseas. Like you can do that. It's possible, but you better ask that question and do a little bit of sniffing there, because I wouldn't just assume that they have that set up or that they even know what ITAR really means. Yeah.
Cool. Well, one of the last things we want to talk about here is how far the manufacturing industry has come with API integrations and adopting the cloud. And this is something that I know you've devoted hundreds of hours towards. I think might be time to show off a little bit.
Yeah, we're starting to see the move, like we talked about. QuickBooks is a great example. We're seeing more and more of our shops using QuickBooks Online. That's really cool. Super easy to integrate with. You just go. On Paperless, you go to the settings page, you basically sign into your QuickBooks and the integration is done, and you didn't really have to do any setup. So that work, you don't have to install anything on your computer or anything like that. So that's really cool. That's an example of things successfully moving to the cloud, but there are a ton of legacy systems that we have to integrate with. We see it all the time. They're typically ERP systems, and they're just on-premise solutions. So what that means is there's a server somewhere in that shop hosting this ERP system. So we have a way to connect to those.
The box.
And it's the box. This is how we do it. Yeah, there it is. There's the box. So this is what we do. We send folks a mini PC. So what this is, it's a computer. That's all this is. It's a computer. It's got a little bit of power in it, and it's running Linux as an operating system. And what you do is you just plug it into your network and power. And what this thing does is it will communicate. Since it's on your network, it's able to communicate with your ERP server or whatever system you're connecting to. And it also has internet access, so it can reach out to Paperless Parts and get information about quotes and orders and things. So when an order comes in, for example, this box will detect it, and then it'll write those records right in the ERP system. And what's cool about it, we've set this thing up so that we can support it as well. So we're able to make sure this gets software updates regularly, security patches, things like that. And if you call us and say, hey, order 123 didn't go in right, we're actually able to remotely log into this securely and help you troubleshoot that issue. So that's what's so cool about the box. And you don't need to put us on your VPN or set us up with all these user accounts. We're able to just handle that right with this piece of hardware. Yeah.
And is there a reason why you chose, I think, is it Linux?
Yeah, so this is running Linux.
Yeah.
What's cool about that, this is almost like a secret in the manufacturing world because it's so dominated by Windows, both on desktops and servers. But what's cool about Linux is you can really, it's an operating system, just like Windows. So it runs programs. If you were to plug a monitor into this, it would have a desktop similar to Windows. What's cool about it is you can really pare down what's loaded on here. So you're able to run it on effectively a smaller, cheaper, less powerful computer and get the same results. So that's what's really nice about this. So this isn't an expensive thing to put on your network. And it's by default really, really secure. So the way we're able to get into this, it doesn't require us getting third parties involved. Like, a lot of people use LogMeIn and services like that. Most of those capabilities, the ability to have like encrypted connections between computers. They're just built into the core of Linux, and that's what we're able to use. When we access this thing,
It's phenomenal.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it works really well too. These things are bricks. They're great. They'll just run forever. Lights out. You don't have to think about them.
Yeah.
Wow. And it comes in a sweet package.
Yeah, that's right. It does look cool.
Yeah.
When it's on, there's a nice blue light there. It's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
I like it.
Awesome. Well,
Cool. Anything else?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be back. Yeah, we're always welcome. Well, that's the end of episode 3 of the Weekly. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week. Again, if there's anything you want us to talk about, you can message any of us. We look forward to hearing your input. We might do a live session at some point in the near future here.
And podcast.
And podcast. That's a great point.
Going to start ripping the podcast. We'll get this all checked off the list for Apple and whatnot, and then strip the audio out, and you can listen to it whenever you want.
Nice.
So
Cool.
all right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.